So I've been trying to tell this story for a long time, and every day I feel like a new understanding snaps into place, and it doesn't change anything, but it subtly affects my understanding of how all this happened. And so the latest example of that is understanding the importance of this piece right here, the capital planning and development, which I discovered accidentally on Israel Ruiz's website. And let me read it. Ruiz oversees MIT's 5.2 billion 2030 capital plan, including the construction or renewal of more than 2,000 residential units. So what I realized is that this is just Ruiz and Reif taking control of MIT. This isn't a real thing. They're just saying they're going to do it, and it's a strategy to take control. And so let's focus on that for a second. And what they're really doing is Reif is trying to get his skull tech deal with Russia through. They added Kendall Square development piece and the incubator. So I know this all seems confusing. Hopefully it will come clear as I go along. Um, so that's the capital plan, 5.2 billion that these two are promising to MIT if they follow their plan. So that's their plan. And it has the result of Susan Hockfield resigning 3 months later. So she's getting out of Dodge. She knows exactly what these two are up to. And so listen to what she says. The Institute is now moving forward on a new set of ambitious goals, and I have concluded that the more powerful momentum we've built makes this an opportune moment for a leadership transition. So she's getting out of Dodge. And she goes on to support our ambitious goals for the future. MIT has begun the crucial work of planning for a significant new fundraising campaign. A campaign on this scale will require the full focus and sustained attention of the Institute's president over many years. I have concluded that it would be best for the Institute to begin the next chapter with new leadership. So, a new fundraising campaign, that's the 2030 capital campaign. But Reif and Ruiz never in a million years dreamt that Susan Hockfield would resign because of their corrupt plan. He said in the Globe, frankly, this is a shocking set of circumstances. She wasn't the target of what they're doing. Um, so that 5.2 billion, they've essentially established themselves as the CEO and the COO of a company that promises to deliver 5.2 billion. But again, she wasn't the focus. And so here's me trying to explain the rest of it. And so bear with me as I try to communicate to you what is going on here. John Deutsch and Rafael Reif brought the Skoltech deal to MIT in 2009. They're both Schlumberger directors, and the deal was to create a research center for fossil fuels in Russia that had no clean energy component, significant technology transfer, and was focused on fossil fuels. So that's the Skoltech plan. And for 2 years, they couldn't get MIT to go along with it. So Reif comes up with an idea. So this is where I really have a hard time explaining, but so he calls Skoltech an innovation hub. And there's nothing innovative about it. It's fossil fuels. And it's Gazprom, MIT, Saudi Arabia, Russia, Schlumberger around oil. But he successfully tells this lie. MIT hopes through Skoltech to help plant the seeds of an innovation ecosystem in Russia that will benefit the participating institutions and the rest of the world. So the magic word is innovation, and no one looks any closer. And so he's discovered a magic formula to sell fossil fuels, and he expands it to the engine, which he calls an innovation orchard. But again, it's all just fossil fuels, and so that's the scam. But the enemy for Reif and Deutsch, the enemy is the MIT Environmental Initiative, which began in 2008 with the Environmental Research Council. And in 2010, they published their report. And that is what Reif created the fraudulent capital plan to combat. This is his enemy because their focus is on 1.2 and 1.5 and holding the line at that. So they're coming up with a systemic strategy to address climate change and global warming, and that's the enemy for fossil fuels. And so Reif is provost, and he tells these people to go back to the drawing board and work again. And meanwhile, he appoints Maria Zuber. I feel like it's getting confusing, and if I try to explain these pieces, but in 2010 they produce their first report, and that's when Reif comes up with this bogus capital plan, which is fossil fuel based. So he's basically promised MIT he'll deliver 5.2 billion if they give him control. And so that's what this represents. This is massive control. And when you look at MIT's standard leadership chart, which is this thing, this is what people normally see. And it represents nothing. Here's what they show of Israel Ruiz's thing. Here are Dean's. This is meaningless. It's meaningless. This is Israel Ruiz's own organizational chart, and this is power. So he's at the top of it. The chief of police reports to him. Finance, human resources, information systems, medical, campus planning, auditor, sustainability. This is a staggering amount of power that one person controls. And so that's what I've tried to represent with what these people are doing. And so with that power and this promise of delivering 5.2 billion if they follow their fossil fuel plan, this is the bargain with the devil that MIT made. And flash forward to 2000. So over here, the engine launches in 2019. They're getting ready. Israel Ruiz is getting ready to launch his company, and that's when the Jeffrey Epstein scandal breaks, September. And so MIT institutes this fraudulent cover-up to protect Israel Ruiz and Rafael Reif. And trust me, it gets so much worse from that point on. So let me just jump around before I close out this video. So these are the sponsors of the MIT Energy Initiative. they began with millions from the fossil fuel company. So at the heart of MIT's research is always fossil fuels. That's the bargain with the devil that MIT has made, that give us money and we'll produce research. But in return, they sustain fossil fuels. Um, and so this is the lie that MIT tells to sell it. We invest in tough tech. The engine backs founders solving the world's biggest problems through the convergence of breakthrough science, engineering, and leadership. So they make that sound like that's a virtue, but this is all technology that sustains the fossil fuel industry. It's like carbon capture, it's deep thermal vents, it's long term things, it's things that make a 2% improvement over something. But what they've done in the meantime is Maria Zuber has eliminated MIT's plan. This is the plan that calls for a systemic strategy. Without that, you just have Maria Zuber saying a 2% increase in energy efficiency is climate action. It's not. It's irrelevant. It doesn't, without a plan, you accomplish nothing, but you protect the fossil fuel industry. So and when in 2008, so these are all the superstars of MIT's. They spent 4 years developing this plan. And they all walked away when Maria Zuber came along and wiped out the word climate change, global warming, anything, and she substituted this fraudulent idea of you just make a 2% improvement and you can say that's climate action. Um, so that's the lie, and it's all to support the fossil fuel industry. So when you see all of these things, all of these are just, yeah, they're good, they're okay, but they're not a plan. And they come with two very expensive price tags: the survival of the fossil fuel industry and the destruction of a plan. So that's what MIT is doing. And it began with these two lunatics, Raphael, John Deutsch and Rafael Reif, who were Schlumberger directors who were paid $4.5 million. And they are true believers. John Deutsch, the world should be encouraging oil production everywhere. This is what started it all. He co-chaired a bogus report, National Security Consequences of U.S. Oil Dependency. And that's what set this nightmare in motion. Um, okay, I know that was incoherent, but this is a difficult story to tell.